Hey, hold it. This is for you. It is written by David Nelson. He's not here today. There are 3 black poets, or 6 or maybe 100 in this town, but he's not here, and I didn't memorize it enough, so I have to read it. It's for you. Are you ready, black people? Are you ready? All right, now listen.
Are you ready?
Are you ready, black people?
Are you ready?
Are you ready, black people?
Are you ready?
Are you really ready?
Are you ready?
Ready to do what is necessary?
Are you ready?
To do what is necessary to do?
Are you ready?
Are you ready, black man?
Are you ready?
Black woman, are you ready? Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Give me good now. Give me good now. Give me good now.
Are you ready?
Are you ready to kill if necessary?
Are you ready?
Is your mind ready? Is your body ready?
Are you ready?
Are you ready to do what you have to do to create life?
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
Are you ready to smash white things? To burn buildings? Are you ready? Are you ready to build black things?
Are you ready?
Are you ready to give yourself, your love, your soul, your heart to create life? Are you ready to create out of nothing? Are you ready, black people? Are you ready? Are you ready? Black man, black youth, black woman, black everybody. Are you really ready?
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
I ain't finished yet.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
You gotta get your own self together, you see.
Are you ready?
You gotta ask yourself these questions.
Are you ready?
Are you ready to call the wrath of black gods,
Are you ready?
black magic, to do your bidding?
Are you ready?
Are you ready to use whatever is necessary?
Are you ready?
Yeah, let me hear you say it. Like this. Yes, I'm ready.
Are you ready?
All right. All right.
Are you ready?
Oh, Lord have mercy. Are you ready to groove? Okay. Are you ready to listen to all the beautiful black voices, the beautiful black feeling, the beautiful black waves moving in beautiful air? Are you ready to love black, always loving black? Are you ready, black people? Are you ready? Are you ready to listen? Are you ready to hear? Are you ready to feel? Are you ready to do? Black people, are you ready? And most important, you over there, most important, are you ready to change? I said, are you ready to change? Are you ready to change yourself? You know what I'm talking about.
Are you ready?
You know what I'm talking about.
Are you ready?
You know what I'm talking about. Are you ready to go inside yourself and change yourself? Huh?
Are you ready?
I'm gonna
Are
say
you ready?
I'm almost through now. That plane kind of messed up the impact a little bit.
Are you ready?
Are you ready to change into a groovy black person? Are you really ready to change yourself? Turn yourself inside out, through and through, and make yourself a through and 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 through real black person. I say, are you ready? See you later. I'll see you later. Take that home with you. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Nina Simone. Let's give it to her again. Nina Simone. The one and only Nina, the great Nina Simone.
Let us start our class with a prayer.
In the name of the African ancestors who began the march of humankind in the womb of Mother Africa, we ask these ancestors to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of the African ancestors who began the march of humankind in the womb of Mother Africa and marched down the Nile, laying the foundations for human civilization and culture, we ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of these African ancestors who built their pyramids and their temples to their God concepts, to their principles, and to their moral values, who left us a legacy of architectural and monumental building unparalleled in the history of the world, we ask these ancestors who built the pyramids, who built the temples, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask these African ancestors who took this African culture and extended it throughout Africa, building the stone cities of Zimbabwe, building the empires of the Sudan, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, building the Swahili city-states along the east coast of Africa, and in Christian Africa asking King Lalibela and giving him the courage to build the 12 churches of Lalibela from the ground down, monuments to the world. We ask these Africans who spread this culture to the Dogo and to the Akan and to the Yoruba and to the Bankongo and to the Zulu. We ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of the Africans who opened up Africa, opened up the Nile Valley to other cultures and other peoples, and they came in and nurtured themselves on the African greatness. First coming in early with the ancient Hebrews, and they synthesized this culture and produced Judaism. Later coming in were the Christians, and they synthesized this culture and produced Christianity. Coming in were also the Greeks, who took the African culture, synthesized it, and produced Greek civilization. And then later, the Prophet Muhammad, and with the Arabs coming into the Nile Valley, they synthesized the culture and produced Islam. We ask these African ancestors, who as part of their legacy laid the foundations for Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Greek civilization, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask those African ancestors pulled out of Africa, taken to the hells of North America, South America, the Caribbean, maintaining the spirit of African humanity in their hearts and in their minds, and who left us this enormous legacy of struggle. We ask those Africans who resisted enslavement in the villages of Africa, who resisted enslavement in the shores of Africa, who resisted enslavement in those forts and dungeons, who resisted enslavement in the holds of those ships, who resisted enslavement when they arrived on these shores in the New World. We ask these Africans who ran into the highlands of northeast Brazil and established for 100 years the first free republic in the Americas, the Republic of Palmares, and their last great leader, Zumbi, whose spirit and sacrifice. We ask these Africans who replicated the Brazilian experience and went into the highlands of Jamaica and became the maroon-free communities. We ask these Africans who went into the backwoods of the Guyanas and Suriname and created free republic of the Suramaka and the Ajuka. We ask these Africans who went into the backwoods of Georgia and the swamps of Florida and moved with the Seminole Indians and resisted oppression. We ask these Africans who left us a legacy of struggle and resistance, the likes of which no one in the world has, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask these Africans who created and laid for us a foundation of struggle and resistance that was passed on generation after generation, that was passed on to Harriet Tubman, who fought her way out of enslavement and became a symbol of freedom for all of us. Similarly, Frederick Douglass and hundreds of thousands of others fought their way out of enslavement. We asked those Africans who went with Boukman, Dessalines, to create the greatest revolutionary experience in the history of the world, the Haitian Revolution, leaving us a legacy, the likes of which no one else has had. We ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future.
Informative. Change. The time is now and the place is here.
Running African, reuniting the African family for development.
And it's now February, and already February 7. Yesterday, Jamaica observed and celebrated the birth date, 71st, of an icon, a legend, Bobby Marley, Robert Nesta Marley. And we say this every year, that inside of the Africa Forum, we do pause, we really do pause, and we've been doing this for many moons, to acknowledge African History Month. I think it's pretty important for us to do so. But we're African every month and Black every month. So you know how we do. So inside of the Africa Forum, it's business as usual. Reuniting the African family for development. Working towards our vision. You know, it is African History Month, it is Reggae Month, and even though we've got an election date thrown in the middle of it all, which means it's also election month. Also now, you've been hearing in the news, or maybe not so much in the news, but it's been in the news, that 13-year-old Kadir Wellington, who attends the C.C. Sweeting Senior High School in the Bahamas, is excelling in maths, and that he is I think he's a top student in mathematics. He's in 10th grade. Always been on the principal's list in the Bahamas. And, all right, so he gained a National District Award for his excellent performance in the national exams, where he gained 6 A's and 1 B. And I do think he's excelling in mathematics, isn't that? He's excelling in mathematics, and he'll be joined. Well, we're going to be speaking with him, Kadir Wellington, and his teacher, Daphne Ellis, who is a Jamaican. Kadir Wellington, of course, is also Jamaican, 13 years old, Jamaican student. And his teacher is Daphne Ellis. She's a Jamaican, a trained teacher of mathematics. And they're joining me on the phone lines this morning to talk a little bit more about those achievements of this 13-year-old Jamaican student, but who's living in the Bahamas and is doing very well. He copped the top award for mathematics at the annual National Awards by the Ministry of Education and Technology in the Bahamas. So, against that background, we'll have a conversation with him this morning.
Running African, reuniting the African family for development.
You're inside of the Africa Forum. We're Africans, not because we were born in Africa. We're Africans because Africa was born in us. Welcome to African History Month, and welcome to a very special edition, because we're kicking things off this morning in our new feature inside of the Africa Forum, entitled the African Youth Forum. And we're very happy to welcome to the Africa Forum the youth of Jamaica, starting this morning. It's now 128 days. It is now 128 days since one of the chief advisors to the Minister of Education and in the Ministry of Education here in Jamaica, Mr. Franklin Johnston, declared that CARICOM's Reparations Commission is a Ponzi. 128 days. Esmeralda Simon says to be an African professional. As professionals, we can and we must choose to devote our skills and our knowledge to African self-determination and total liberation. Where are we in the struggle for total liberation? Where are we in the fight for African self-determination? The first step towards this goal, Simon says, is to never lose sight of our purpose, to be of service to our people as we reclaim total liberation and self-determination. In order to keep our eyes on the real prize of being Africans free from Western domination, we must be African-centered in our thinking. We must act out this African-centered thinking constantly in our daily lives. Simply put, poignant, to the point. It's really pretty simple. As professionals, we can and we must choose to devote our skills and our knowledge to African self-determination and total liberation. It's 128 days since one of the chief advisors in the Ministry of Education declared that CARICOM's brief on reparations is a Ponzi. You know, Nina Simone has a song which I'll not play because, well, I do got it, but I won't play it. I won't play it this morning, but if you can YouTube it, Google it, or if you have it, just play it for me. I played it once in the forum and came under some strict guidelines as to why it should not be played. It's not banned, just that it shouldn't be played. Nina Simone's, are you ready, African people? Are you ready? Are you ready, African people? Are you ready? You know about Nina Simone? Well, I played it once in the forum, and the backlash was something else. But go ahead and Google it and play it for me. And if you can, post it to my social media pages. Thank you so much. Nina Simone's, Are You Ready, African People? Are you ready? Hey, the sounds you're listening to, the soundtrack, since about 6:20, thereabouts, are Afro-African Cuban beats. The African retention in Cuba. African Cuban beats. Then we're playing it for a little while inside of this African History Month. Well, we understand that Zika is spreading rapidly into the Americas, according to PAHO. and that we must all take Zika seriously. ZIKV. Jamaica's first confirmed case of ZIKV in a child coming from Texas, USA, as you recall. But also, we're hearing that ZIKV is now deemed to be sexually transmitted and also by saliva. Now, we would be deaf, dumb, and totally oppressed, our minds under some serious mental control. And it is within this space that we break the cycle of mental control. If we did not comment on that, we have to comment on that. Regardless of all the other stuff, which is we know that ZIKV is out there. It is called ZIKV, whatever it is, that's infecting so-called third world people at some alarming rate. And first we were told it was transmitted by mosquitoes, and we're still hearing that that is the primary means of transmission. But when you throw in a sexually transmitted infection in the mix, because they say it's in the blood, etc., and then you now begin to tell us about saliva, I don't know if this is meant to cause fear, what it means for the big pharma, the big pharmaceutical companies, but there is something up with how we're getting bits and pieces of the misinformation and the information regarding ZIKV as we go along. What does this mean for the pharmaceutical companies? I'm going to follow the money on this one, even while we take precautions. We're going to follow the money on this one because this is an all-encompassing disease. It's spread by mosquitoes in the first instance. It is also sexually transmitted, and now we're hearing that there's a possibility that it's also transmitted by mosquitoes. Now that is some serious stuff. That is some real serious stuff. So we're following the money on ZIKV. The conversation must also be had in relation to the genetically modified mosquitoes. We must talk about that. The questions regarding the GMO mosquitoes that were sent into Brazil have not been properly answered, and they're not even being properly asked in the mainstream, so-called mainstream global media. And there's a reason for that. That has to do with Monsanto. And I know the minute we begin to look at this and take it to the natural conclusion that we will find that Monsanto is sitting cozy somewhere in the middle of that. So there was a cannabis conference in Jamaica last week, it was. And understand that lots coming out of that cannabis conference. The objectives were to appraise Jamaicans and international investors and interested parties about the possible regulatory framework of a cannabis industry to be established in Jamaica to allow potential investors and interests to have a better understanding of the investment climate in Jamaica and to facilitate partnerships with local interests and potential cannabis users, potential cannabis business operators. So that happened on the weekend, or last week actually, Wednesday and Thursday. Were you there? If you were, let me know what happened. Meanwhile, in St. Kitts has joined the call for the legalization of marijuana. St. Kitts Chief Medical Officer Dr. Patrick Martin has said the legalization of marijuana could have a positive effect on violent crime in St. Kitts. So the Chief Medical Officer is actually calling for the legalization, note the term. The Chief Medical Officer Dr. Patrick Martin, he says, we have the evidence in health in the security sector. In 2007, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime produced a report entitled Crime and Violence in the Caribbean. And he says the report quoted, drug trafficking is a cause of the gun-related homicide. Interesting, because, you know, we're still seeing cannabis as a drug. And we also saw where the St. Vincent and Grenadines Prime Minister, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, has called for a collective Caribbean approach regarding the trade and other benefits of marijuana cultivation in the region. He said we have to have the studies. That is why he advocated the Caribbean Marijuana Commission in the changing global context of marijuana use, Caribbean economics and other relevant professionals. Caribbean economists and other relevant professionals, including those in the pharmaceutical industry, ought to be ahead of the curve in conducting relevant research, not rehearsing traversed territory. And I do agree with him. Gonzalez was addressing the launch of a 40th anniversary celebrations at the Cave Hill campus of the University of the West Indies. Recently, he told delegates that the studies must point to a means of making the crop economically useful to the islands. You know, that conversation is still going on about whether or not math and science teachers should be paid more. Education think tank Educate Jamaica, they do think so. Education think tank Educate Jamaica has estimated that it will take a minimum monthly salary of $250,000 to stem the flow of mathematics and science teachers leaving the classroom. Now, I didn't join no education think tank, but I really think that they're barking up the wrong tree here. $250,000 per month now will not be $250,000 per month in 6 months' time. The devaluation of a dollar is happening too rapidly, at too much of a rapid pace. The cost of living is moving too high too quickly to tag teachers staying in Jamaica to a monthly salary of $250,000. It won't work. So you have to bear all, put everything in context. I think we said this here in this space many moons ago, right? And I've heard it now in the public space, and that is good. And I've heard the minister saying it also, and that is even better. That there is a consideration to be made of scholarships, and while it might not be the only consideration, it should really be one of the main considerations of granting scholarships, of teaching, of training math teachers properly, and of bonding. Bond over, whatever you call it, teachers to a 5-year or 7-year, whatever it is, but 5 years, I think, a good time to bond a teacher over after, getting a degree in mathematics, and ensure that you don't just stop at the diploma level, that you go through to the degree level. And remember, we did say that the mathematics teachers should be trained properly. Right? You know how you do that. But many mathematics teachers do not know how to teach mathematics. There's still a lot of conversation about the Oscars and the total whiteout of the Oscars, and Jada Pinkett Smith declared on her Twitter post that she doesn't believe that it's right and that it should be boycotted. And then we had Spike Lee also coming out, and so on, and persons have been tweeting me about it and asking me what I think about it and so on. I really don't think anything about it, as I don't even care. I know Jada has 2 children, and I know on the social media that we've seen images of her son, for example, and persons are saying that she should really pay attention to what's happening with him because of what it appears is happening with him there. But that's a whole other story. I don't know. I think Black Lives Matter. Right. I understand that Beyonce has put out a new video that includes the Black Lives Matter hashtag or scenes or so on. We haven't seen that yet. We'll go look at it. But I think Black Lives Matter. And at the Oscar level, I think that's a whole farce, and it's really nothing to fight about right now. I think once we have, and they're talking about African-centeredness, because at the levels of the Oscars, I suppose those who work as professionals in Hollywood can take care of that there. For us, though, what is more important is that our youths are no longer gunned down by white supremacists or by white supremacist ideologists or by those who have imbibed and absorbed and embraced Western Eurocentric teaching in black skins, and continue to gun down our youth. I think we have a lot more to do, a lot more to fight for than whether or not black people are included in the Oscars in Hollywood. That is their fight. I will not take that one on. Give me your friend, give me your tired, give me your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Culture itself is neither education nor law. Making it is an atmosphere and a heritage. All right, we have much more to go and to talk about inside of the Africa Forum this morning. As a matter of fact, in focus this morning, we're going to be looking at the two things. Happening now, it's a drought crisis, but in focus is Burkina Faso and the lessons to be learned from Burkina Faso's decision to drop GM cotton. David Uri, or Urbi, has been talking about that, writing about that, and we're going to be looking at some of what he has been saying.
Running African, reuniting the African family for development.
Afro-Cuban beats inside of the Africa Forum this morning in this African History Month. Just a few minutes away from speaking with our Professor Wazir Mohammed, our first guest inside of the program this morning. The Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry will deliver its report to the President of Guyana tomorrow, Monday, February 8th. All right, as we go to the phone lines where Professor Wazir Mohammed is standing by. My brother Wazir Mohammed, thank you so much for joining us once again on the Africa Forum.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.
All right, we've been following this for a while now, and here we are. We understand that the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry, that the report will finally be handed in tomorrow. Thanks for alerting the Caribbean and really the world to this, because for those of us who haven't been tapping into the Guyana media, this would have passed us if it weren't the fact that you sent out this missive. What can you tell us about this latest development? What does this mean now?
Well, we have to, basically the report is going to be handed in to the President. It was a presidential commission. One would assume that all things being equal, that the report is going to be available. This was an inquiry that was long coming. It was into the assassination of Walter Rodney, who was killed on June 13, 1980. And the world has been looking forward to this inquiry. So, we have to wait to see what the report will say. We don't want to prejudge what the commissioners are going to say. And I think the entire Caribbean and those of us who want justice around the world should pay keen attention to what this report says and try to understand the fact that people like Walter Rodney, who struggles on behalf of working people, have been at the receiving end of the sharp steel of the state. As I have said in many articles I've written, we have to understand that the assassination of Walter Rodney have to do with the fact that he took up the struggle on behalf of the working people in the same way that people like Patrice Lumumba, Steve Biko, a number of people from around the world met their death because they took up the struggle on behalf of the working people against the ruling classes.
And I wanted to talk some more about that, Wazir, just a little bit for us. We have started a new feature this morning, the African Youth Forum. And as a result of that, we've got many schools tapped in. Many students are up at this time. Some of our students are actually here already with us at IRA FM, who might be hearing about this for the very first time. For those students who are pretty young students between the ages of, say, 12 to 17, explain to them what we're talking about here. We're talking about a report that is due. You mentioned earlier, this is an inquiry into the assassination of Walter Rodney. At their level, help them to understand what happened and who Walter Rodney was.
For them to make sense of what happened, they have to go back into the history of Walter Rodney, who was not only a national figure in Guyana, but before he became a national figure in Guyana, a national political leader in Guyana, he was a national activist, an academic on the international stage. And for young people in Jamaica, that began in Jamaica in the 1960s. when he was banned by the Shearer government in Jamaica from teaching at the University of the West Indies, primarily because he chose to take his intellectual ability to the streets in Jamaica and to ground with people in the communities in Jamaica, to teach them why they are being oppressed, why people are poor and why people are rich. And those discourses are covered in a booklet called Groundings with My Brothers.
Yes.
It is something that young Jamaicans, especially and people from around the world, can pick up a copy of this booklet and learn about exactly what he was saying to the young people and why he was banned by the Shearer government in Jamaica.
Yes.
His journey also took him to Africa. Walter Rodney is one of the most prolific and renowned historians of the history of the slave trade and of the problem of the African people. That is covered in a seminal work which has gone through now 40 publications, and it is being used by universities across the world. That work is called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, which basically explains in detail why Europe, for instance, is rich and why Africa continues to be underdeveloped.
Yes.
He explains the construct, how underdevelopment was constructed, how these communities were constructed to be underdeveloped. He explained how Africa was a leader in culture, was a leader in the economy in the world, was a leader in innovation at the communal level before colonialism, and how it became impoverished after colonialism, how colonialism constructed Africa to be impoverished. Now, this is a very, very important work. It is still valuable to understand the divide between people of color, between the rich and the poor, on the global level.
Yes.
And then the journey took him back to Guyana, where you had Guyana has been gripped by racial problems between the main ethnic groups since the 1950s. And as a result of that, development could not take place for the working people. Walter Rodney came back to Guyana and got involved in the political struggle. But he did not only get involved in the political struggle, he wrote a seminal work on the history of Guyana called The History of the Guyanese Working People, in which he explained where the working people came from, why they're in that condition, and why they're divided. And again, that is an important piece of work. But his politics took him to the streets to discuss the condition of racial disunity between the two groups that had been competing with each other for power. And when that happens, as he said, those on the top, the ruling class, wins. So he coined the term in Guyana called People's Power No Dictator, and he rallied the Guyanese nation around that slogan. And it is because of that clarion call and because of the popular support that he was receiving from the population that he met his death in Guyana, because he became an important figure that challenged that challenged dictatorial rule, that challenged the ruling class, that wanted a Guyana in which the working people can be part of a government. Essentially, he was saying that people's power should be present in government, that the people should be involved, should have a stake, that they should benefit from the largesse of the country, which they were not benefiting from. So he was killed in a bomb blast on June 13th, 1980, and in the inquiry, what came out is that the bomb was remotely triggered with a frequency that only state security agencies had access to.
And so that the report is pretty important at this stage. For the young people who are asking, 1918, we're just having a commission of inquiry into all of this. And in the middle of all of that too, there's so many calls for this commission over the years. The Justice for Walter Rodney Committee was set up really recently and have been watching very, very closely the proceedings regarding the setting of a commission, the setting up of a commission, and now just on the eve of the report being handed over to the President of Guyana. But we have heard the commission chairman in the report that we saw in the newspaper, the link that you sent us, where Sir Richard Cheltenham has told reporters that there are likely to be gaps in the conclusion. Do you know what he means by that?
Well, I mean, I don't want to, the gap. Probably he's talking about the fact that they did not get the opportunity to complete the inquiry in the way that they would have wanted to, because there were some key witnesses who should have come before the inquiry, which they did not get a chance, whom they did not get a chance to interview, and lawyers did not get a chance to cross-examine, because the inquiry was brought on end in an abrupt way, and they were asked to submit their report. And I mean, if the commissioners are now talking about the possibility of gaps, one can only assume that is what they're referring to.
And it's taken a while to get here. We have had many conversations about this, the importance of this being handed in. How important is that we're now at this stage where we're expecting this to be done tomorrow?
Well, I mean, at the political level, in terms of Guyana, this inquiry is very important because young people, especially students, will have the opportunity to understand politics and the way it works, especially in the Caribbean, in that period. Because that period was very, very important when you had politics, popular politics on behalf of the working people, in which the working people had an agenda for change, an agenda that no longer exists, that is now far from where we are. All the politics now is about the market and about market forces and about the rich controlling society. There was a time in the Caribbean in which you had figures like Walter Rodney, who had popular support among the working people, and that the working people were really fighting for a stake in political power. This struggle for political power formed part of the inquiry. It was a background to the inquiry. Now, that is important because it is Walter Rodney, in terms of as a historical figure, who was killed in 1980, now becomes a legendary figure that working people can emulate. And this is important, that students who are looking at this history begin to see what they can draw from the history of this person, both as a student who graduated with his PhD in his early 20s, and who engaged the struggle on behalf of the working people. His entire life was involved in that engagement. And that's a very, very important and powerful tool for students to understand that they have a role to play as individuals in society to change the condition of themselves and their communities, and that they can intervene to change the condition of themselves and their communities. And that is what this whole process is about. It's about recapping the importance of struggle for change.
Yes, and as we wrap, was there, because we'd really like to come back again once the report is made public. So against that background, what's the process like once the report is handed over to the president tomorrow? What happens next? Do you know?
Well, I mean, according to the Attorney General, I mean, I'm reading the same report you're reading.
Yes.
According to the Attorney General, that's in the President's purview to decide what he will do with the report, whether he will, lay it before Cabinet, whether he would make it public, how that process would unfold. At this moment, is anybody's guess. Looking at it from where I sit, this was an inquiry into a public figure. The world is looking on. I mean, the fact that you've asked me to come in this morning and to talk about this means that people not only in Guyana but outside of Guyana are paying close attention. That there is a public build-up, and the president will, I think, have to pay attention to the fact that people are paying attention.
Yes,
and that the report should be made public as quickly as possible.
Once this happens, I mean, there's not much more to say, I'm sure, until we've read the report, heard at least what is contained in the report. We'd like for you to come back, Wazir. We've been leading up to this moment for quite a while now. That once we've read the report,
we're prepared to come back and to talk about the report itself.
Exactly. We hope that will be our next conversation.
We have maintained from the beginning of this process that this is important for national reconciliation in Guyana. And it is important as an exemplar for people across the world to understand the struggle that we have against the ruling class, that the working people have against the ruling class.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Professor Wazir Mohammed. We'll speak to you hopefully very, very soon. Once we've all read the report, we come back and discuss that. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you, Kabul.
All right. So Professor Wazir Mohammed there, Assistant Professor Sociology at Indiana University East and also Chair of the Richmond Human Rights Commission. He writes extensively on human rights issues and also on the works and ideas of Walter Rodney. He's a founding member of the Justice for Walter Rodney Committee, and we are and have been talking to him over these last few years, months actually, regarding the commission of inquiry that was set up into the assassination of Walter Rodney. On the eve today of that report being handed over to President Granger in Guyana, we await that, and once we've read that, we'll have that conversation again.
Running African, reuniting the African family for development.
Sacanteo manantio tuve, sacanteo manantio beso. Ya yo, Ye wemba na wemba. Wemba. Ye wemba na wemba. Yeah, wemba na wemba. Wemba na wemba. Wemba na wemba. Oh, yo.
Okay, Okay, joining us on the phone lines now, Director Curator of the Jamaica Music Museum at the Institute of Jamaica, Herbie Miller. My brother, Herbie Miller, good morning.
Good morning, Cabo.
All right, I'm doing well. How are you?
Boy, getting ready for the big day.
Yes, I know. And today is a very big day, isn't it? Pretty active for me.
I mean, way beyond what I'm doing.
Yes.
Which makes it bigger.
All right, well, let's get to this quickly. All right, Herbie, I said earlier, you know, lots of events were postponed and cancelled and so on, pushed back because of the election date. The activities at the Jamaica Museum celebrating both reggae and Black History Month, they continue. One of those, the weekly Sunday tributes. Talk to us about those first.
Fine. This weekly Sunday tribute started 5 years ago, and it takes its the idea from the Grown Nation sessions that we're accustomed to as a youth growing up in Rockfort, seeing Count Ozzy and his brethren come together to reason and play music, eat food, indulge in all sorts of rituals within the Rastafarian ideology. Mm-hmm. And so while we don't go all the way with all of the rituals at the Institute of Jamaica in downtown Kingston, we really try to present that musical and reasoning that we have experienced in the past in Grown Nations. Mm-hmm. So this year we decided, pardon me, we decided this year that we would focus on Don Drummond, a seminal figure in the development of Jamaican music, and a man whose life also offers us an opportunity to look at in general, the Jamaican population, especially that of an African descent. Mm-hmm. Can you
tell us a little bit about Don Drummond, though? It's the same thing with Walter Rodney just now, that so many young people tuned in at this moment who probably haven't even heard his name, which is,
you know, it's an amazing thing that so many of us are still misinformed about those on whose shoulders we stand. Yes. Don Drummond, as a boy, went to the Rollington Town Elementary School before his mother took him over to the Alpha Boys School because he was a bit troublesome. At Alpha, he was given the trombone eventually. He started out on the euphonium. He ended up on the trombone and immediately showed exceptional talent. He was nurtured through that system, and even as a youngster, he was able to be, he was allowed to go out and play with established bands of the time, Eric Dean's orchestra, for example, while still a young boy at Alpha. On leaving Alpha, he was immediately pulled into that band, the Dean's Orchestra, the big band of that day, and eventually played in many others, traveled to Haiti where he was exceptional, came back to Jamaica. He was a part of Count Ozzy's Rockfort community, where they, as I said earlier, were involved in music. People like Brad Genier and Bobby Genier, Tommy McCook, Roland Alfonso, Johnny Moore, Rico Rodriguez, all of these exciting musicians came out of Count Ozzy's college of not just music, but how the whole social build-up of our people could be conveyed through music. Don, on signing a contract with Studio One, recorded many outstanding songs, many whose melodies and rhythms today are remade, and it is that, in my mind, that is so captivating about so much of the better songs of today. So Drummond was a star long before there was Marley and Third World and Tosh. He was a star, but not a singer, a player of not even a popular instrument, but a trombone. So musically, that's the power of the man. Many have said he was rated among the top 5 trombonists of the world. There have been, he has inspired many others in the diverse arts field, poets, writers, other musicians who investigated to what extent he's so outstanding. And so Jamaica in Drummond has a someone bordering on genius, if not a genius musician. Of course, there was another side to Drummond talking about genius, that fine line between sanity and insanity, genius and insanity. And Drummond was indeed clinically insane, given the standards of how that was determined back then. Who knows, he might not have been, but just showing a different way of life in a colonial system, that misunderstanding, that put them away kind of attitude. And so he eventually spent a lot of time in and out of the Bellevue institution.
Because a lot of our great and say heroes, unsung heroes in Jamaica, and freedom fighters and genius have been locked away at Bellevue on all kind of flimsy.
If you can't arrest them, put them away and call them mad.
Exactly.
And as you and I know, among others, especially your listeners, that applied to Bedward and Howell. And if they had not found a way to put Marcus in prison, they would have put him in madhouse.
That's exactly. So that is also part of the history of and the colonial history of Jamaica. All right. So today, what's happening at the Music Museum today?
Today, each week we have a different subtitle. And by the way, this year it's called Ungo Malungo Man, Musings on Don Drummond. And today's subtitle is Margarita and Malungo. You remember that song, Ungo Malungo Man? Of course,
yes.
That was her, the lady in his life, singing her ode to her man. And so Ungo Malungo Man, the victory and tragedy of an art couple. And so I'll be doing that presentation. I see them no less than Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo, or Max Roach and Abby Lincoln, or even Miles Davis and Cicely Tyson. And they predate Bob and Rita and Skill and Judy, as I would see art couples. And so I'll discuss their relationship in terms of art and personal, and right up to the climax when both their careers ended abruptly. Performing today with no other than the great Manley Buchanan, Big Youth, who will sing some tributes to Don Drummond, and Sabrina Constantine, an up-and-coming artist out of the Edna Manley system. But we'll also start the day at 1 today, that's at the Institute of Jamaica, 10 to 16 East Street, downtown, with Dr. Christopher Charles launching Heather Augustine's book, Don Drummond, the genius and tragedy of the world's greatest trombonist. So that's what's taking place today.
All right. So it starts at 1 o'clock with the launch of the book, and then
it goes into my presentation. It's an audio-video presentation with very rare and unseen and unheard material on Drummond. But Cabo, all of this couldn't have happened without the help of Irie, of course. You have always come to our assistance. But this year, JMMB was very helpful to us. News Talk 93, of course, your sister there in Kingston. The Chase Fund.
I like how you say with sister, it's true.
Your sister, man. It's under woman management instead, your sister.
Yes.
The Chase Fund came forward this year. And of course, boy, Norman MacDonald and his team at Linstead Market, them feed us good, they say.
Wow.
When it's not ackee and saltfish, it's gungo pea soup, and, I will tell you
but Herbie take time we do, we not eat it for man, and Herbie.
And then CPTC also came in this year because they think that this should be properly documented for the future.
Oh, brilliant,
and it is much better than our little effort at doing so.
And it's open to the public.
Very much so. Free, including the sip and the bite is free.
Wow. Yeah.
So, we always have a beautiful program. We want to make it a keepsake.
Yes.
And so this year's was beautifully designed by our friend Bunny. At Bunny Levy.
Yes.
And we thank Bunny very much.
Okay.
But listeners, it's every Sunday for this month of February. And it's so the 14th we have another thing, I hope you'll shout me to talk about it, the 21st and the 28th. But we focus on today's.
All right, definitely. We'll hear from you going down. And I really want to talk to you about another work that you, and the research and the writings that you have done in relation to the Jamaican music and the music connection to the Jamaican political development and Jamaican politics in particular. Because I've been reading that.
Pulling me into that again.
Yes, man. Yes. Especially
Listen, let me just reiterate that Ground Nation today is at the Institute of Jamaica on East Street at Torres Street, and it begins at 1. It's free to the public. It's educational and it's entertaining.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cabo.
All right, so that's Herbie Miller, director, curator at the Jamaica Music Museum at the Institute of Jamaica. Remember, it's happening every Sunday for the month of February. It starts 1 o'clock on this Sunday, and really a tribute to Don Drummond. Go out. The presentation today seems that's going to be like a really, really great one. Audiovisual and all. Make sure that you go and be a part of that. It's free. Even the food is free. Wow.
I'm Asada Shakur. The first time I heard a tape of one of Mamiya's radio broadcasts, it was the first time I fully understood why the United States government was so intent on putting him to death. I make a special appeal to you, sisters and brothers, to fight tooth and nail to save Mamiya's life and to free him from the grips of his oppressors. As you honor our forefathers and foremothers, I urge you to honor our living heroes. When you honor the names of Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman, and Malcolm X, I urge you to honor the names of Geronimo, Jijaga, Sundiata Akoli, Matulu Shakur, and Mumia Abu Jamal. I urge you not to forget and not to betray our living heroes. If we ignore their struggle, we are ignoring our own. If we betray our living history, then we are betraying ourselves. We could not save Malcolm X, but we can save Mamiya. We can save him, and we must save him. Because we love our brother, and we need our brother to help us fight for freedom. Free Mamiya Abu Jamal. Free all political prisoners. Let us carry on our tradition to freedom.
Babaluaye, ekwa, yo saludo a los santos en el nombre Babalu. Yo saludo a mi orisa en el nombre Babalu. Saluda mi orisa en nombre de Babalu.
All right, so we are introducing a new feature. I was saying earlier, Shamara, that it's really not so new. We've just never called it the African Youth Forum, the Africa Youth Forum. But here we are with the Africa Youth Forum. And I got some bright eyes and really bright eyes in this early morning. Students from the Steertown Academy in the studio with me. Looking forward to talking to them. We were talking about the elections. They've got views and they're very opinionated. I can see that they've got their views. They're also here with their teachers. So welcome to the Africa Youth Forum for the month of February. It's going to be once per week, and then we see where it goes from there. But definitely we're scheduled to ensure that the Africa Youth Forum happens at least once per week, once per month inside of the Africa Forum. So I'm going to have the young people in the studio from the Steertown Academy, first of all, introduce themselves. And let me just welcome the Steertown Academy, who has always been a part of the IRFM family since its inception. And also to all students, teachers, all high schools and in-between schools and primary schools. All, sorry if I know, but everybody else. I just pop like, whoa. Yeah, they are listening. Who are listening this morning, welcome to the space. Welcome to the Africa Forum. Teacher, I start with you. Good morning. Good morning for coming in so early with your team. Sir, let me start and just have a teacher introduce himself and tell us a little bit about and just tell us a little bit about the group we have here. So welcome to the space. Introduce yourself, sir.
Hi, good morning. My name is Jervis Hamilton. I am the teacher of social studies and Caribbean history at Steertown Academy. Here we have today Jelisa.
We're going to let them introduce themselves. Jelisa is saying to you, no, I'll introduce myself. Yes. So you are, and you at short notice you prepared your team and you ensured that they were here this morning.
Yes.
We
they were enthused about it coming here this morning.
We appreciate that. All right. So let's start with the introductions by the students, and I think we should start with Jelisa. Who's Jelisa? Oh, it's you. Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead. Let's start.
Okay. Good morning.
Yes.
My name is Jelisa Williams, and I am currently in grade 11 double at the Steertown Academy.
Right. And you are. What do you mean by? Are you also a sub prefect or a prefect?
I'm a prefect.
All right. Okay. What's a sub prefect? Who's a sub prefect? Oh goodness. Okay. Go ahead. Introduce yourself for the others. Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Jodine Hyde, and I'm in grade 10, 10 SB, and I'm a sub-prefect.
Okay, and a sub-prefect means what?
A prefect in training.
Okay, there you go, because when I was going to school, we never have that. You're a prefect or not. All right, but I think that's a brilliant idea, that sub-prefect. It means you can be a sub-prefect at an earlier age. You don't have to wait till fifth form. That's what it is, isn't it? You can.
Yes.
All right, so go ahead.
Hello, good morning. I'm Alicia Brown from the Steertown Academy, committed to excellence. I'm in 10 SB and I'm also a sub-prefect.
Okay, congratulations on that. And yes, go ahead. There's the lone male student, but you got a male teacher with you. Yes.
Hi, good morning. My name is Casey Thompson and I'm also in 10 SB and also a sub-prefect.
All right, I'm very happy to have you in the studio with us. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to be talking about a few issues today. Just be yourself, just relax and just say what's on your minds. We're talking especially about the upcoming elections and your own views on that. What you think are some of the main issues, some of the main challenges going into the elections. By the way, anybody was surprised? Were you watching the election? Did you have an idea as to when the election would be called? What date? Anybody?
Yes.
All right. Let me know who. Yes, tell me what you thought. Yeah, Jodine? Who's Jodine? Yes, go ahead, Jodine.
I think it's a little too early, but issues.
Did you expect that it was going to be in March or April and not called in February?
No, I didn't want it to called in February because our sports day was the 26th. And I was so looking forward for that day, but because of election, we had to pull back. So we had to set another date.
Okay. Well, you see, so when I was talking a while ago about our Peter Tosh event, you literally felt it for us, don't it? Like, there you go. Same thing with we. All right. And you also were saying, is this Alicia?
Yes.
Yeah, you were saying that you had your own ideas about when it would have been called. Did you expect it to be called in?
No, I didn't expect it to call so early.
Yes.
Because at school we're missing out a lot, and I don't like the fact that they're using the schools for polling station. Because example, like my school is going to be closed just because of that. I don't like the fact that they're calling it so early, and I'll like them to choose to have different places for it to be held.
Yeah. So you'd prefer they take it out of the schools?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anybody else with a view on that?
Okay, I thought they would have called it a little bit early, like last year in December, but I heard that because of the university students that are doing their courses, they will not call it at that time. But
that's what you heard?
Yes.
You go. Well, look here, Jalisa. Did you hear that, Shamara? Okay. All right. So you expected it December.
Yes.
But so you weren't so surprised to hear that it was called in February?
No, I wasn't surprised.
All right. What did you think when you heard, though? What were your thoughts? Are you engaged in political discussions at school? Do you talk about these things? I don't mean partisan politics, but just generally about the issues and so on.
Yes, we do.
All right. Tell me some of the stuff you talk about.
Like, for example, in social studies, we have a few topics like government. We learn about the politicians. We do not talk about election like in general, but we touch upon those topics. So we talk about a little of this, a little of that, and we have to know most of the politicians by name just so we can pass our exams. So we do a little brush up on everything.
So that's what it is.
Yes.
Are you interested in what's happening politically in Jamaica? Are you outside of just trying to pass the exams?
No, I am not.
Why? Why not?
I'm not that person who's really involved in politics, mainly because I'm a child. You know why? I don't have a right to vote. So I wouldn't push myself in that space just to say, hey, my mother is this, so I'm a this, or I'm a that. I'm on neither side. I'm not a JLP or a PMP. But when I have that chance to vote, probably I'll look on both sides and see what they are doing for the country to better it or so on and so forth.
Elisa, I see you're dying to get in here. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, you said that for us young people for voting, and in my perspective, I'm interested in the politics because in Jamaica right now, the age of consent for sex is 16 and to vote is 18. And I'm saying that us as young people, our voices should be heard and also to exercise our franchise. So I'm saying that we should have the right to vote like we're 16 and 15 and so, and I'm saying that our voices should be heard instead of putting it at 18, because 16 years olds in Jamaica have the right to have sex. So I'm saying that we should have the right to vote in Jamaica.
All right, Jalisa?
Okay, I am interested in the election process because the government is a body or group that governs the affairs of a country, right? So I want to know who will govern the affairs of Jamaica, if that person is responsible enough. Not just anybody can get up and try to control the affairs of their country, and that's what has been happening over the years. They have not been dedicating themselves towards the citizens of the country. They have just been doing it for their own personal benefits. Okay.
Right, and I want you to talk some more about that. But before that, Jervis, actually have him hand up in the air. So Jervis, sorry, not Jervis, or a young man. What's his name again? Casey. Sorry, yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'm very interested because we as youths are affected. We are a part of the population and the decisions that they make, and we are affected by them. So that's why I am interested.
All right. Jodine Hyde, who's a fourth form student, a sub-prefect and a debate mate, performing arts. Alicia Brown, fourth form student, sub-prefect, debate mate, performing arts. Casey Thompson, fourth form student, sub-prefect, debate mate, performing arts, and a member of the football team. And Jalissa Williams, fifth form student, prefect, debate mate, and performing arts. The teachers with them. Jervis Hamilton is a physics teacher at also sociology, you said, social studies, physics and social studies at this Churchtown Academy here in St. Anne. All right, so let me start now. Let us look at what do you think are the main issues, and what are the main issues actually affecting you as students that you would like to see being dealt with at a governance level? Who's starting? All right,
okay,
Jalisa.
I will start.
Yeah.
As I was saying about the government controlling the...
All right,
okay,
Jalisa.
I will start.
Yeah.
As I was saying about the government controlling the affairs of the country, election affect us as students because the party that is in power, the party that wins, will determine if students will get a proper education or if they will improve the standard of the education, right? Yes, election will affect me because I know that leaving school in June, couple of months from now, I am expecting to find a job. I don't know if the government that will win this election will provide enough jobs that when I leave school I will be employed, and that is a factor, unemployment.
All right, Jodine.
As I was saying, unemployment is one of the biggest factor in Jamaica. Reason being, we have persons who are highly educated and they can't get a job. As my friend Julissa, yeah, she's leaving school in the month of June. And now, for instance, she don't have the money to attend a college, at the same time she'd want to work. But here's the biggest problem. When she leaves high school and she wants to find a job, it's hard to find a job because what they're telling you must have a couple of years training or experience, which is unfair because she would have to be working from as our Jamaicans would say, from our eye to our knee. So I don't see how is that possible. That's my point.
Alicia? Okay, now the question I'd like to ask is, Jamaica land we love, but does Jamaica love us? And what I'm going to focus on is the crime in Jamaica, because Jamaicans are supposed to choose the leaders they believe in to lift up the country. And in Jamaica, streets are made unsafe where crime is a major and a growing problem. Plethora of persons are affected. Also, this is connected to issues in some communities. Now, in order for Jamaica to make a change for this is, firstly, connect people in the environment, especially the youths. Neighborhood watch that works in collaboration with the police, who keeps a vigilant eye on your home and also farms. And my last point is to build a partnership with police focused on solving problems instead of reacting to crisis. Additionally, the police force should take things more seriously, because now in society, the police they cannot be relied on or trusted. So I think that Jamaica should make a change and for it to be better.
All right. Looking at the issues through the eyes of the youth, and these are fourth form students to the main part, and a fifth form student with us talking about the issues as they see it, especially within and against the background of the upcoming elections. Casey Thompson.
Well, yes. Well, I believe that the problem is we are not being heard. We as youth need to have the right to vote as well, because frankly we have to sit down and let the adults make the decision for us, and we do observe.
Yes, you want to make your own decisions.
Yes.
It's about time, eh?
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 15 years old.
All right, yes.
Yeah. So I believe that we sit down and we have to wait on the adults to make the decisions for us, and the past elections, the vote counts are very low. Now, I believe that lowering the age to vote will change this, because we as youths, we are the future, and we have a right to vote now so that we can secure our future.
All right, and I like that strong now. So what is the age you think? What age should you be able to vote? I know I heard Alicia talk about that earlier. She talked about the age of consent as opposed to the age to vote. So what age, Casey, do you think?
Well, I believe...
Well, you're 15, so you think...
Yeah, I would think 14 and above. Yeah.
All right, 14 and upwards. And I know we're all smiling, but this is pretty serious, because when you started talking there, you said we, the youth, are not being heard. Outside of voting, how else do you think that the youth voice is not being heard? What would you want to see done differently so that your voice can be heard where you want to make a difference?
Yes, I would like to see politicians coming into our communities, doing something practical with us, getting us very involved. I mean, most of us youths don't really know about politics, aren't really interested, so put politics in our brain. What I'm saying is, get us involved. Come around in the communities, not just the communities that are well known, but the ones that some persons don't know about. Come in there and get us involved in things. Let us see that yes, you are doing this for us. You let what you are doing be evident.
And in the meantime, and I'll just throw this out to everybody, if you don't see the politicians, what do you think the youth can do to be seen? Obviously, and I heard you say, Jalisa, that it's not working. What you see happening in terms of how the politicians are engaging or not engaging young people, that it's not working. But what can a young person do?
I think it's not only the politicians that need to be more involved. It's the students, the young people that need to get more involved. They can put on programs to be heard. You understand? And what I think in the politics, they need to have more young people, like to be like MPs. You need more young people. Too many old faces. For years you have been seeing the same old people in politics. You need some fresh faces. Okay. Yeah.
Jolene?
I agree to what Julie had said before.
All right, one of the things mentioned here also is the crime and the treatment by police of young people. I want to develop on that a little because I know crime affects all of us. How is a young person dealing with crime? Jolene, I see you put up your hand, so hold your point right there. The point was raised by Alicia. So let me just go back to you, Alicia. Do you want to develop on that point a little bit more? You seemed in your presentation just now, you mentioned that this for you is one of the main issues that needs to be addressed from the political, from the governance level, and that is crime.
Yes, I think it should be addressed because a lot of young people right now is affected by the crimes in Jamaica, especially for me because I have to stay back at school like really late for to practice for performing arts and also for debate. And going home this time, I have fear for these things like the crime and so on. And I think that the government should deal with this to make it better.
Jodine?
I think this comes back to my points, unemployment. Most persons who are involved in crime are juvenile delinquency. Persons who are young and involved in illegal things like crimes and all those stuff. This brings us back to unemployment. Once a person is out of school and not doing anything, this is a push factor for him or her to be involved in any illegal activities. So he or she might want to, as we would say, eat a food. So, the extortion. When we are coming home in the evenings, when we are going to take taxis, most times they extort the younger ones, like persons in the community. They extort the younger ones, and most of these persons are young people.
What do you mean by they extort the younger ones? Who's doing that?
Young people who are not in school, who are like 18, persons who are unemployed. So I think the government should try her best to provide more jobs or to provide more schools to educate these young persons, because some of us are not highly educated as some of us brains are not fast as some. So if we could just come together and teach them a trade or something, then probably the crime rate will decrease instead of increasing.
Go ahead, Jalisa.
Okay, I was saying that the school is situated in an area where there's a lot of violence, and the government can implement training centers, skill centers, where when the young boys or the young girls leave school, the young girls won't have to get pregnant. They can expect something from the government. They can continue their education, even if they might not be doing well academically. They can try to get a skill. The young men, some of them in the community, they might not have the intelligence. They can try to get a skill like engineering, mason, something that they can do to occupy them time and to gain money.
Are you hearing anything from the political platform? Are you hearing the politicians saying anything now to make you feel that, okay, they're thinking about us as young people, they have mean mind? I'm leaving school in June. That is usually and me, Jodine and Elisa and Casey. We have one more year or so to go, and I think I hear this coming from this place. It seems as if they are really thinking about us young people. Are you hearing anything, Casey?
Well, on the night that she called the date,
That's the Prime Minister?
Yes, Portia Simpson Miller. I was actually watching it, and she was making some plans, and it was 10 years, 15 years, 5 years. That was the timeline. That was the deadline. Right. Now, what I'm saying is, how would we fit into this plan with 1 year left in school? So technically, we don't see anything happening for us. We see things happening for our children.
Children.
Wow, that's a good point. So you want to hear her talking to you right now. You want for somebody to talk to you.
No.
Elisa, are you hearing anything that says to you, yes, somebody's thinking of me. I am in the short term and long term plan.
No, not really.
Not really?
No. Haven't heard anything like that.
What would you want to hear?
Okay. As I said before, I would like them to lower the age for voting, and because young youths have we have feelings of rejection, and we want to become stakeholders, so we should have the right, and also we should feel equal in the country, because somehow we might feel like they are the ones that only should do something. We want to be a part of everything too. Yes.
Jodine, are you hearing anything that says to you, somebody is thinking about me? I mean, there's a plan for me in the wider scheme of things nationally.
No, I'm not hearing anything at all. As Casey said before, 10 years, 5 years, I want to hear about the present. I don't want to hear about the future. We are not sure that we are going to be here in the next 5 years. We want to know that when we leave school, yes, I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something constructive with my life. The government has a plan for us. I want to hear that right now than 5 years, 10 years, and so forth.
Jalisa?
Yes, I haven't heard anything from the government. I even tried to go on the net to look into her manifesto to see what was her plans, but all I see was that she was planning on focusing on the areas particularly in information, communication technology, and energy reform. I don't hear anything about young people. As I said before, what she needs to do is to put in tertiary centers like skills centers, stuff like that will help us. She's not doing anything that will help us.
Have you had a chance, or do you feel that you are welcome to go into an MP's office and have this conversation with whoever the member of parliament is?
No, I don't think so.
Or any politician at all? You don't feel like you can engage anybody on these issues?
No, it doesn't look like I can engage with anyone on these issues. As I said, it's not like we have been hearing from them. What it needs to do is to get hands-on with the young people, come into the areas where, not the areas that are well known, the inner city, so-called inner city, where people can get to know them.
We're not getting partisan, but we do have members of parliament, and I just want to find out which area you're from. I know your school is in the Steertown area. That will make the member of parliament in that area, Shahini Robinson. But I'm not quite sure. So it's Shahini Robinson, the MP for your area, right?
Yes.
Okay. You don't feel like you can engage the member of parliament? No, indeed. Well, I know she listens to this program, and I know that she will take this to heart and immediately have a conversation with the students at Steertown. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I think Shiny Robinson is very involved in both politicians. I think it's
Mayor Gilmore.
Yes.
Everybody call him Gilly, by the way, so you have to say Jody. Yes.
But I think both of them are involved in my community because I see them as often as possible.
So do you feel that you can engage them on these issues? You can talk to them about the issues affecting you? Are you hearing anything from them regarding their plans for young people in the community?
Well, the only time I see all the time I see them, like, I don't have a chance to talk to them because my community members, they're very serious about election. So when they see them, it's like, they're like reeling. So there's no space for this little one to fit in because there's a lot of adults there surrounding him or her, and I won't get a chance to talk with him.
Are you in another way?
No, and if I try, probably somebody older than I am, or gonna say, "Go sit down, man. It's not your time."
Okay.
So yes.
All right, we're going to take another short break to come back in the Africa Youth Forum with 4th and 5th form students of the Steertown Academy. And the views that you're hearing are the children's view, these young people's views. These are their views. This is how they feel. And we, as I said earlier, we really do need to give them that voice to say how they feel, not how we think they should feel or how we think they're feeling. We've got less than 15 minutes left. And so in this 15 minutes, I want from our young people here what they would do differently. And if they could speak to their, if you were MP, for example, if you were in government, if you could change how government is engaging young people, what would you do differently? Who wants to start?
I will start.
All right, that is Jalisa.
If I was an MP, I will try to invest in the citizens of the community, because I know that when I do things, when I fix the road, when I provide skills centers, when I try to improve the school, when I try to do things, the people are going to see that I am doing stuff and they are going to vote for me.
And how would you engage, brilliant, and how would you engage young people differently? What would you do for young people?
Young people like to be heard.
With young people, yes.
Young people like to be heard. I will put on programs with them. Programs where, on the social media, where they can be heard, where they can get a occupation, where they can try occupy their times differently from, involving in violence and the negative things. I will try to move with them positively.
And as you mentioned, the social media, the Minister of Youth talks a lot about engaging young people on the social media. Do you feel that? Do you see that? Are you a part of that engagement on the social media with the Minister of Youth?
No, I'm not a part of that. But every young people nowadays is on the net. They are engaged in the social media, but most of them are engaging it in the negative side. They are not using the social media for their benefit, for positive things. They are just using it for Facebook, Twitter to get likes and pictures, stuff like that. They need to start creating groups on the net where young people can cooperate together and try to move in a positive way.
That's a brilliant idea, because I see that Jervis teacher happening in Africa with young people, and they have created industries out of just moving together in groups like that on the social media. Matt Jordan is one person who we interviewed here, a youth in Ghana. We interviewed him about 3 years ago, and that time he was just really launching out. Now he's traveling all over the world because he has engaged young people from across the continent of Africa and are bringing them together on issues affecting African youth. And as a result of that, they are creating and doing so much. So the point you're making is a brilliant one in how the social media can be used for more than just posting up the minister in bad suit. I know she's doing much more than that, But I'm just saying it because you see, the bad suit pick and the pick, looking upon the cow, the sandals and so on. I don't know. And then we saw the leader of the opposition as a youngish person doing a similar thing, looking upon him clocks. I mean, what kind of message? And so that it's not just the students, it's not just the youth who are not using the social media in the right way. We have Andrew Holder is not using it right either. Why clocks? I mean, why bring to the fore and foreground a Vibes Cartel song and something that you're not even making in Jamaica, as your social media post that is going to get the most retweets? That's bull.
Yes.
And we're not supposed to sit out on a Sunday morning and do say sorry. Right? All right. So, very good point about how the social media can be used. All right, Georgine, what would you do different, and how would you, if you were, in governance, and how would you engage young people in particular? I like what you said, Jalisa, too, about young people like to be heard. That is true. Yes.
If I was an MP, I would visit the communities more often. Otherwise, from when it's election time, I would get in touch with the young people because, you know, most young people in communities they're going to turn like 18 and so on. So, you know, they are going to vote. So I would help them to look on both parties, not even if I'm a JLP or a PMP MP. I would educate them that, like, this is how you do things. Look on both sides, not because your parents are PMP or JLP, you're going to say, all right, me vote for PMP because my mother said me have to vote for PMP. It's not how it goes. It's who is bettering the country in other ways. And I would make, as Jalisa said, the thing on Facebook, I would make it compulsory for the youths who are on Facebook, Twitter, and every one of those stuff. If you're on Twitter and Facebook, then you have to join a group on Facebook pertaining to, you know, an educational purposes.
Oh, you're going to make that compulsory.
well, one step at a time and we get there. Never say never. We will get there.
But exactly. But the idea is to encourage people to do that. You know, that meet you where you are. And encourage you to be part of positive groups, of forward-thinking groups. So, because the social, you can make a lot of, you can create industries. Let me just say that instead of saying make a lot of money. But you can create industries in how you engage on the social media. Yes, Alicia, yeah.
Oh, before I start, I like to say that the feeling's neutral and I'm not on anyone's side. So.
Thank you for that.
Yes. In the Gleaner, I have read this from the PMP side.
Yes.
At this time, if I say I'm not utterly ashamed of this government, and more so the Prime Minister, I would be pathologically mendacious, meaning born a liar. I am still in shock that our Prime Minister only thinks that this country deserves 73 seconds of her precious time to address a national crisis. Now, from 2011, the Prime Minister hasn't made a good public speech, and for this situation now in Jamaica, she only spent 73 seconds for her country. Now, as a leader, I think that she should be more assertive. She should show her confident and her forceful personality. Yes.
Okay. And what would you do differently if you were the Prime Minister?
I would address the country more, like to
public speaking.
Yeah, more public speaking to let them believe in me and to really choose me and to accept me as a leader.
So what did you think? Did you see her speech? Did you see her speech at the announcing the last week Sunday when she announced the election date? Anybody? Or you saw it, Casey? I know you were watching. What did you think of her speech?
Well,
it was very short.
I think it was all like a rampage. I think she was just starting it off with, well, an excellent good start, like bringing up the people's vibe towards her party. That's what I felt she was doing, not really making a speech, but like kind of just giving the people hope-ish.
Okay. All right. So back to you, Alicia. And how would you engage young people differently if you could impact and change and be a part of governance?
Okay. I would do certain things that I know that most young people will be fond of, things that they're interested in, to let them come together, to let Jamaica unite and be not just for the better purpose, but for the best.
Mm-hmm. And that would be like what? You want some time to think it through while we go to Casey and come back?
Yes.
All right. Yes, Casey. How would you do things differently? Because I need all of you to address that. If you were in governance, if you could change things, if you could make a change tomorrow, what would you do differently?
Yes. Well, I believe the politicians now are mainly focused on making Jamaica a first-class country Well, I believe if I was in government, if I was an MP or if I was the Prime Minister, I would make first-class schools, first of all. I would secure the future of Jamaica with smart minds, you know?
As opposed to first-class roads, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, China Highway and so on.
Yeah.
All right. And in terms of, and you're saying this is one way that you'd engage young people. I mean, through what you want, first class schools. Let us talk a little bit more though about, and you are the one who talk about you want to make a change right now. You know, you want to vote right now. How would voting allow you to make that change?
Because in voting, you're not just selecting a person. In voting, you are observing the person's actions and seeing if they are the right person to, like, keep your life in their hands, you know, keep the life of the country in their hands. So in voting, I would be able to select that person, select the right candidate who I think is right for the job.
All right. And Alicia, you want to come on now and tell us?
Okay, yes.
What like, could you talk about the stuff that you would change, such as?
I would introduce more agricultural activities to engage persons more in agriculture, because in this way, of course, they can make a lot of money. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. We're totally out of time, and I really, really enjoyed your presence. I enjoyed the conversation. I wish you'd come every Sunday morning and just sit there and be part of a conversation with me. I really enjoyed it this morning. I'm going to give everybody a quick last word to just say hello to your friends and family, but you have to do it very quick because we only have a minute. Yes.
Okay, I will first. I want to big up the Stairtown crew with Miss Grant, our principal.
Jolene, I thought you saying another way.
I want to big up the Harrison with Anthony Coombs, aka Jomo. I want to big up, everyone, my guardians.
Anybody want to take it from Jalisa because we don't have much time?
Yes, I want to pick up my mother, Lotia Williams, my dad, Juna Hyde, and he said that I must tell her that they call him as Bufftick, so yeah. I want to pick up my grandmother and my great-grandmother and other family, relatives, and friends.
Go ahead, Alicia. Yes.
I like to pick up my family for giving me the opportunity to be here, and I also like to thank the principal and most importantly a teacher by the name of Miss Gordon. She's the one. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Casey. You have half a second.
I want to pick up my mother, Felicia Miller. I want to pick up my grandmother, and most important, I want to big up Miss Williams. From the Stairtown Academy.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much. And I want to big up all owner, and thank you, Mr. Jervis Hamilton, physics teacher at the Stairtown Academy. Thank you so much for coming in with the students and for being part of this. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Big up, sir.
All right.
Running African, reuniting the African family for development.
All right, in this African History Month, we're playing just African retention music from countries where we are, where we were, and how the music has been retained and preserved. And so this is the music we've been playing all morning is the African Cuban beats out of Cuba. And you would never know, would you? All right, we're scheduling this segment of the program to speak with the representative from Soussouci, Denise Perkins, who is the president of the Oterius Orchid Society. We're not getting you on the phone, Denise, so if you will give us a call. In the meantime, we'll speak with Devon Evans. But we're trying to get the president of the Oterius Orchid Society because today is the Orchid Extravaganza, and it's happening at the Soussouci Hotel here in Oterius. It begins at 9 a.m. It goes through to 5 p.m. And the exhibitions include classic car fashion show and a flower display. And we're going. I'm going to be there. I need to go look at those orchids, see if I can't buy them. And then I need to definitely go and see those classic cars. So we're going to be stopping by. But we need to speak with Denise Perkins on the event today, the Orchid Extravaganza. All right, so in the meantime, we go to Devon Evans because Devon was actually at the conference in Kingston. We mentioned that conference earlier, that Ganja Marijuana conference in Kingston last week. Devon, good morning.
Morning, Kabu.
How are you doing?
I'm okay.
All right. I'm happy you went, man. I didn't even know that you had gone.
I was at the conference for the 2 days.
Yes. All right. So I was talking about it this morning, and I know the objectives, and you would have looked at the objectives too. Do you think those objectives were met at the conference? Because I know they included to appraise Jamaicans and international investors and interested parties about the possible regulatory framework of a cannabis industry to be established in Jamaica, to allow potential investors and interests to have a better understanding of the investment climate in Jamaica, and to facilitate partnership with local interests and potential cannabis business operators.
Yeah, well, over those 2 days, in fact, we have two government ministers, and it was started out by Her Worship, the Mayor of Kingston, Angela Brown-Burke, who told the gathering that this industry holds a huge potential for Jamaica, and that she was urging the government to speed up the process to get the licensing out of the way, because people are just chomping at the bit to go get involved in the industry.
And did we learn anything more about... Yes, go ahead, Devon.
Well, we got from the Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Well, it's like the licenses, the proposal for licenses, which he said will be completed at the end of this month, for government to start accepting those applications. They have the interim license will include cultivator license, which include a nursery license, and license for growing, which allow the licensee to purchase seedlings, cultivate, harvest, and dry ganja. Granted the purchase order from a licensed manufacturer processor. And then they're gonna issue a processor manufacturer license, which will allow handling, storage, processing, and manufacture of ganja and products containing ganja. Then there will be a transport license, which allows for transport between the two license holders, like the grower and the manufacturer. Then you will have a retail license, which will include therapeutic centers, tea houses, and then there was a research and development license and an import license. What an interested section of the retail license is the tea houses. The tea houses, if persons who have been to Holland, Netherlands, and you see those coffee shops where you can walk in and purchase your ganja and smoke, they're trying to introduce that type of thing in form of tea houses. But where it is, he said there will be a provisional period to allow for registration, due diligence, verification of information, and screening of persons to ensure that they have met all these requirements.
Yes.
So we are a bit off. In fact, one of the organizers, the Ganja Growers and Producers Association, they were the ones organizing it, and Richard Dickey Crawford, who is a vice president of the organization, said based on how the government, he likes the way the government is traveling in terms of making the preparation and setting the necessary framework for licensing, and they are looking for, by the end of this year, they're hoping if it continues and travel at this pace, by the end of this year, we can start to see license issuing. So at the end of this month, the government will be accepting application for not issuing license, but accepting application, and later down they will offer these licenses.
So the minister, the government representative from government actually there pointing out some of these things.
Yes, in fact, government seems to be actually leading the way, because we have the Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce on Wednesday, and then on Thursday we have Minister Paul. So the government is really taking a lead, because that, according to the mayor, is huge. They say it's huge, enormous potential in the ganja industry, and they feel that if Jamaica doesn't speed up the process from now, they find themselves lagging behind.
I hope that the lines are not blurred between government and the thing, though, in terms of leading the way or being the way or in the way.
Well, that is some. What we need is the greater input on the ground, because when you see all the investors are overseas investors coming in, and what we find is that a number of these investors are already producing products from ganja. Although ganja is illegal in Jamaica, investors are already flooding the Jamaican market with products made from ganja, from oil, skin lotion, drops, all of these things, and no license. And I'm wondering, how come these products are here already and no license has been granted?
Well, so that question came up?
Yes, I think Maxine Stowe was there as one of the presenters, made reference to that same way, and asking why. In fact, they are even trying to look at sacramental rights came up in this whole ganja thing from the start. And up to now, there's no real decision on the sacramental rights and who will be offered, will be granted the privilege to have their premises to do sacramental use of ganja.
Devon, I'm so sorry that we're totally out of time, but if in 15 seconds you could put a wrap on it to say, your own views on how the conference went down, but I can't give you more than 15.
Well, I say it was another learning process, and another eye-opener to let us know that if we as Jamaicans who are interested in getting involved in the legal ganja industry do not push forward, and I use the word actually push, we might find ourselves left behind.
All right, we'll pick this up, Devon, definitely with you, and we hope that you'll come in the studio and help us to understand that. Thank you so much.
Running African, reuniting the African family for development.
Asoyilla batambo maito no me. Maito no me. Sukoya batambo maito no me. Maito no me. Gomado, asoñaña gomado yongolo. Agomado, asonjaba gomado yongolo. Ñañala gomado, obokweñiso bolo kweñorisa sata. Agomado, bokweñiso bobokwe.
Wow, sounds really nice.
Merewo timbo lode, merewo timbo, merewo timbo lode, merewo timbo, ebioso merewo timbo lode, merewo timbo kwelea. Merewo timbo lode.
We have so much to get through. The South Africa, we understand, remains in the grip of its worst drought in decades. Last week, we heard the South African Weather Service announcing that 2015 was the driest year on record, and that it shows no sign of abating. These records date back to 1904. To make matters worse, health officials say 11 people so far, up to yesterday, had died of heat stroke after a week-long heat wave across the country. Aneki, I know you're there in South Africa, and I know you've been listening on the internet online. Maybe you can give an idea if you are being impacted, and anything you know about what's happening with Jamaicans in South Africa, the drought itself. Also, Other countries affected in southern Africa include Namibia and, all of southern Africa for the most part, Zimbabwe and so on, impacted by this drought in southern Africa. And the extreme drought is not just in southern Africa alone, it is also across East Africa. So Ethiopia is once again in the firing line. We want to talk about this drought, this unusual situation that happens, especially in Ethiopia, that affects only black people in Ethiopia. Yes, it is true. It is true. So Ethiopia is once again being put up now as the poster child for emaciated children and so on. But there is a terrible drought in the Horn of Africa. Kenya is also being impacted. So Kenya, Ethiopia, Somalia, Uganda, and Djibouti facing some serious drought conditions now, and so too South Africa. We're watching these because it is just so artificial. It's just, there's something that's just not right. We'll talk about that later. They talk about El Nino and so on. But goodness gracious. All right, we're especially looking at Ethiopia. We're watching what's happening in Ethiopia because once again, the dam is being built in Ethiopia. The Nile is in spate, same way. But then there is this terrible drought. And for me, I've always had this problem where I can't understand or where the United Nations or any of the U.S. organizations are on the continent of Africa where there's drought. Their area green. And then as soon as they leave their area, everything else is parched and dirty. So it's just not, it's artificial, created for some purpose or the other, and we'll get to the bottom of that later on. Burkina Faso, we wanted to look at the genetically modified crops in Burkina Faso, and especially GM cotton, BT cotton. Don't know if you have heard, but Burkina Faso is now rejecting GM cotton, and regardless of what we're hearing coming out of the GM funded media, GM cotton especially seem to be doing very poorly, giving less yield. The condition of the lint is inferior. And this is what we're finding out now about BT cotton and through Burkina Faso. Thank you so much, Kwame, for additional information on that. But we're going to be returning to this hopefully next week because I think we might not have enough time to spend on looking at what's happening in Burkina Faso and in other areas with genetically modified crops. But Brian Dowd has been writing about this, lessons to be learned from Burkina Faso's decision to drop GM cotton, and especially cotton is what we're referring to because what he's arguing is that Burkina Faso, being one of the first African countries to begin field trials of BT cotton, was done in partnership with Monsanto. The BT cotton refers to the bacteria, the toxin Bacillus thuringiensis, and that what they're finding out now in Burkina Faso is that after so many years, the yield consistently inferior to the non-genetically modified cotton, even though the BT cotton is being pushed by the GM-funded advertising company, marketing companies, and also the GM-funded media. We want to go to the Bahamas, where a Jamaican maths teacher, and her student, who is also a Jamaican, have copped the National Award for Mathematics at the annual National Awards by the Ministry of Education and Technology in the Bahamas. So we want to talk to Kadir Wellington and his teacher, who is Daphne Ellis. They're both going to be joining us live from the Bahamas. The recently held annual National Awards by the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology in the Bahamas. The Jamaican student, Kadir Wellington, he copped the award, the top award for mathematics, and his teacher, Daphne Ellis, a trained teacher of mathematics, actually guided him to success. He credits her for guiding him to success, and both are pretty elated with receiving this top award At a time in Jamaica when we're talking about the problems we're having with mathematics, you know, they are not as serious, I think, as we can talk them into being. I think we just have to act. Sometimes we really do talk too much. We tap into teachers like Daphne Ellis, who is in the Bahamas. How can she assist? You know, okay. Sometimes we really just need to move on what we have to do instead of the platitudinous peroration. We have been talking about settler and settlement colonialism and looking at that within the context of China in Jamaica and China in Africa. And we note that there is a big misunderstanding and in some cases, you know, a bit of ignorance regarding what that is and what I'm saying when I talk about settler colonialism. And so I want to back up a bit in the bottom line this morning to revisit settler colonialism before I come forward again to continue the conversation on China's military expeditionary capabilities. Thank you on Facebook, Kwame Pianke. He says the Youth Forum is a great segment and a great idea, a good venue to learn from the young people and for the young people to learn from wise elders, an excellent way to create a new breed of leaders. And then you go on to say also later on that the Youth Book Club should be married with a rites of passage program in order to implement ideas into concrete action. The movement from Amen, the hidden, to Kunumta, the tangible. Thank you so much for that.
Running African, reuniting the African family for development.
Bottom line is that to understand China's engagement with Jamaica, we must critically analyze China's relationship with Africa, China-Africa relations, and against that background, to leverage China-Jamaica relations. In the same way, we still need to leverage China-Africa relations. Issues relating to migration, the environment, human rights, labor laws, and transparency, governance, military power, military might, and so on are extremely relevant in any analysis of China's engagement with Africa. So too China's engagement with the Caribbean. I've pointed out in this forum before that China has a love affair with the hugely successful Angola model, and showed in this forum also that model, which first started in Angola, was successfully operationalized in the Democratic Republic of the Congo in 2008, more recently in Somalia, and is now being rolled out in close to 50 African countries and well underway in the Caribbean. The bottom line is that close examination of China's engagement with Africa reveals what can only be described as settler colonialism, and this must be analyzed within the context of migration, but also within the context of military expeditionary capabilities. The Daily Mail has pointed to a letter of June 5, 1873. In the Times, 1873, Sir Francis Galton, the cousin of Charles Darwin and a distinguished African explorer in his own right, outlined a daring and utterly offensive new method to tame and colonize what was then known as a dark continent. Of course, we were talking about Africa. And I'm quoting from Galton. He said, "My proposal is to make the encouragement of Chinese settlements of Africa a part of our national policy, in the belief that the Chinese immigrants would not only maintain their position, but that they would multiply and their descendants supplant the inferior Negro race." You know, I'm going to have to read that again. Galton says, "My proposal is to make the encouragement of Chinese settlements of Africa a part of our national policy, in the belief that the Chinese immigrants would not only maintain their position, but that they would multiply and their descendants supplant the inferior Negro race." That was said in 1873. Galton also went on to say, "I should expect that the African seaboard, now sparsely occupied by lazy, palavering savages, might in a few years be tenanted by industrious, order-loving Chinese, living either as a semi-detached dependency of China or else in perfect freedom under their own law." 1873, that was said. There was an outcry in Parliament at the time, heated debate in the salons of the Royal Geographic Society. But Galton insisted that the history of the world tells a tale of the continual displacement of populations, each by a worthier successor, and humanity gains thereby. This is how the European sees Africa and sees the world, the lens through which they look, and we should best understand that the history of the world tells a tale of a continual displacement of populations, each by a worthier successor, and humanity gains thereby. Now, Galton was also pioneer of eugenics, the theory that was used by Hitler to try to fulfill the dreams of a German master race. Eventually, Galton's grand resettlement plans phased, but we do see it in motion now, with or without the push of the Europeans. If we look at the various Chinese communities in Africa, that will help us to shed some light on how Jamaica should prepare for the inevitable migration sweep that is to come. Settler colonialism must be discussed within this context. Settler colonialism, or the settler colonial phenomena, is not new. We can all identify various times in history where colonialists or settlers come to stay, to establish new political orders for themselves rather than to exploit or engage native or local labor. Settler colonialism is about turning a place and a specific human material into something else, and paradoxically and simultaneously about a specific human material that remains true to itself in a place that is other. So settler colonialism, turning a place and a specific human material into something else, and simultaneously about a specific human material that remains true to itself in a place that is other. We see that in motion now. An astonishing settler colonial situation is unfolding in Africa and is unfolding in the Caribbean, in the greatest movements of people the world has ever seen. China is working to settle or to turn the continent into a new colony. This has been done before, and so that we're not saying that this is China, and the Europeans didn't do it. It's just that we've been through this, and we're in Nkrumah and the Emperor Haile Selassie and many of us stood in terms of fighting against colonialism. We're going to have to do the same thing over again. So this is why we have to purposefully look at what is unfolding, not just at the continent of Africa, but also here in the Caribbean. This is reminiscent of the imperial push by the West in the 18th and the 19th centuries. It is on a more dramatic scale. We're witnessing it on television. We're witnessing it in our time. We're witnessing it. It's on a determined scale. China's rulers believe Africa can become a satellite state, solving its own problems of overpopulation and shortage of natural resources at one stroke. So with little fanfare, a staggering 750,000 to 1 million Chinese have settled in Africa over the past decade, and more are on the way. A similar thing is happening here in Jamaica. Because we do not want to be, and we are not xenophobic, and this is not what this is about. The knowledge, the knowing is important, because it is in the knowing that we begin to understand how to leverage that relationship between China and Jamaica, because I still feel that we're not doing that. The strategy by Beijing has been clear. China has, it's estimated by experts now that China will eventually need to send 300 million people to Africa to solve the problems of overpopulation and pollution. And the plan appears to be on track. Across Africa, the red flag of China is flying. Lucrative deals are being struck to buy its commodities, oil, platinum, gold, and minerals. New embassies and air routes are opening up. New roads are being built. New highways are opening up. The continent's new Chinese elite are now seen everywhere, shopping at their own expensive boutiques, driving Mercedes and BMW limousines, sending their children to exclusive private schools. And when you talk about that, you look at even the plans for the for St. Anne and for the highway that has come through Roaring River, and the plans for Roaring River, the hotels that are to be built, the development that is to be built along the highway. This has been done already on the continent of Africa. In Africa, they have failed to properly leverage that relationship, and now Africa is talking about, and not just talking about, they're experiencing an onslaught on their own manufacturing and production sectors. And not only that, they're experiencing an onslaught in almost every segment of African society because of China competition, unfair competition on the continent of Africa. We're about to face that in the Caribbean because something is missing from a negotiation process. Most of Africa, especially West Africa and Ghana, South Africa, Angola, Tanzania, Kenya, Sudan, and many others, are currently learning the harsh lesson of settler colonialism because, among other things, they do not pay attention to migration issues in their initial engagement with China. The bottom line is that many leaders in Africa stay in power through patronage politics, and China patronage in Africa indicates a higher concentration of China-funded development programs in areas that are either constituencies or have a direct link to incumbent local officials. China money, we understand, also going into the pocket of politicians during elections and so on. Not saying that is happening in Jamaica. I have no proof, but we need to ask that question too. So there's also a China-funded education program in the Bombala district in the hometown of Sierra Leone's president. These are some of the things that we see happening on the continent of Africa that makes Africa powerless in challenging, and not just challenging, but in leveraging, because this is not antagonistic. It doesn't have to be. It is happening. But how do we ensure that where China talks about a win-win for China and a win for Africa, that happens in reality? And what is it for Jamaica? Is it a win-win for China and a win for Jamaica? Because that we should be able to work with, being the lesser negotiator at the table. But I'm talking about in terms of power, monetary power. But what it seems like is that it's a win-win-win for China and a maybe win for Jamaica. The bottom line is that for China's settler colonialism to work, governments and leaders who receive China's assistance through the Angola model or not will have to be complicit, will have to give consent, and this is what is happening. The pothole roads in Africa are cluttered with Chinese buses taking people to markets filled with cheap Chinese goods. The African manufacturing industry is totally devastated by the onslaught of cheap Chinese goods. More than 1,000 miles of new Chinese railroads are crisscrossing the continent, carrying billions of tons of illegally logged timber, diamonds, and gold. What can we learn from settler colonialism in China, in Africa? Massive dams are being built, flooding nature reserves. The land is scarred with giant Chinese mines, with slave laborers paid less than £1 a day to extract ore and minerals. The bottom line is that we are already seeing very distinct elements of China's settler colonialism in Jamaica, with government assistance and complicity without thought of long-term consequences. Continental Africa is now seeing pristine forests being destroyed, with China taking up to 70% of all timber from Africa. All over this great continent, the continent of Africa, the Chinese presence is swelling into a flood. We've seen this before. Africa has been colonized before and enslaved too. So too the Caribbean. And here we see a new kind of colonialism, a settler colonialism. We have been here, we have fought, and we did win. That aspect of the fight. We're going to have to fight it all over again unless our governments are able or wise enough or come to their senses. Maybe it's a bit too late, I don't know, in terms of how we engage China. There's much more to say. There's a lethal price to pay. We're going to be having these fora to discuss the issues. I hope we're not too late. We don't want to sound fatalistic either, because there's an opportunity in the China movement. There's an opportunity. The problem is, and the bottom line is, that we have not yet recognized this, much less to take it. In the meantime, in the Africa Forum Book Club, we are reading China in Africa by Chris Alden. We're reading Dragon in the Caribbean, China's Global Redimensioning Challenges and Opportunities for the Caribbean by Richard Bernal. And we're reading China into Africa, Trade, Aid and Influence, edited by Robert Rotberg.
Sabu ne do na ronka jawti dunia ta wonka ni ma
You're listening to Gospel.
Gospel.